But anyways, you are listening to the Delivering Sports Show on every single Friday night. I do produce my own show, so sometimes there's a little bit of entanglement here. But a fully loaded show. I'm going to be talking about the Matthew Stafford trade that's potentially happening. The Golden Knights obviously have these major COVID-19 issues. Ben Roethlisberger, the Houston Texans. And whatever time I have left at the end of the show, I'm actually going to dedicate all of my time to giving you some insider knowledge, or whatever you want to call it. I'll say insider knowledge on NBA betting. I have won 4 tickets in a row. I did not bet tonight, but I'll tell you what I would have bet, which I know sounds a little crazy considering that anybody can sound right at the right time. But no, basically, I'll tell you like how I've had this win streak and what it means to me. But for the first part of the show, we're going to go over some Raiders news. And I actually had my dad on, and Brian Feldman's going to be joining me in just a little bit while he gets situated. He just had his show Rent It, Buy It, Refi It, and he's very gracious enough to join me. But actually, right now, what I'm going to do is introduce my father. And Dad, how's it going? How are the roads, I guess, out there right now?
Roads are fine. I guess I missed a lot of the bad weather recently, which was good. I'm on Interstate 10 in Texas, headed west.
I like hearing about the open road because you obviously you're out there every single day in it. But all right, Dad, it's time for our favorite or least favorite, I guess, talk of the week when we talk about the Raiders. And well, the news came out. We did hire Gus Bradley. He was the former defensive coordinator for the Legion of Boom. That's probably what he's most known for. He did spend a couple seasons with the Chargers, not so successful, but. Well, before we get into whether or not it matters, do you like the hiring of Gus Bradley?
I myself am happy with the hiring. This is a real experienced guy on defense, which is what we need. He's had some head coaching experience. All I can hope is that they give this guy some type of say-so on the personnel when it comes to either getting free agents or even in the upcoming draft now.
Yeah, and I think one of the main issues, and I think we can both agree upon, is that Gruden and Mayock are two fantastic buddies. They love each other, and they kind of make all the decisions together. But I think even if they had given the responsibility to our previous defensive coordinator, our team might be looking a lot better because, as we know, they have not been playing well. So let's say the Raiders don't make many changes to the defense. Does it matter if Gus Bradley's the defensive coordinator?
No, it won't make a difference at all because the personnel we have right now obviously has to change. We give up way too many big plays, too many third down plays, and if we don't make some changes, having Gus Bradley will be absolutely zero.
0.0. So, yeah, we'll also kind of conclude this little Raiders talk we have in the beginning of the show. I want to talk about Mike Mayock's comments about how disappointing it has been for him, I guess, or whatever he wants to call it, how disappointing the rookies have been this year for the Las Vegas Raiders. And I'm sure he's speaking to last year as well. I don't know. What do these comments mean to you, Dad, considering that he's the reason that they're there?
Well, I guess he's kind of calling himself out without doing it. It's obvious. I mean, he has picked these players. I guess Gruden has to take some of the blame too, but hopefully they can develop into something. Maybe he's trying to light a fire under them. I don't know. I think I wish we would have got rid of Mayock as soon as the season was over, but if it hasn't been done now, it's not going to be done. So we'll just have to hope he does better going forward.
Yeah, and you talk about going forward. Well, I mean, the Raiders obviously have a pretty high pick in this year's draft. Do you have any faith at this point that Mayock can pick someone who's half decent, in 2021?
No, truthfully, I'd rather make some type of trade and get some veteran guys in our defensive backfield than rather go through the draft because the window is so small for Gruden. He needs to win now. He can't wait for rookies and second-year guys to develop. I mean, we need to get some good veterans back there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Would you be willing to trade, I think it's the 18th pick for a J.J. Watt, even though he's an aging star?
For J.J. Watt, yeah, I believe I would do something like that. I mean, just having that guy in the locker room is going to make everybody better.
And it sounds like they desperately need somebody who can just do any sort of productivity for the team.
Yeah, I would be okay with that.
Well, I'll make the call, Dad. We'll see if we can make it happen tonight.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think me and you probably could do a better job. But thanks for joining the show for a second there, Dad. Your Raiders opinion matters the most to me because we grew up watching them every day, obviously. And one of my first memories as a Raiders fan, actually, Dad, is the day we lost the Super Bowl and just how bummed out you were. And that's just kind of stuck in my mind my entire life because I've never seen them be good in my life.
I'll never forget that day too. I remember it like it was yesterday.
And unfortunately, Raiders fans have nothing to call upon since that moment. I'll talk to you after the show, Dad. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right. So that was my father. I like to have my dad on as much as I possibly can. Love my dad. But all right, Brian is all situated. I'm very excited. You know, it was funny, Brian. You're 3. Before, when I was thinking, like, during the show, I'm like, this is probably the most time we have to talk to each other just in general. We're both so busy.
That's
like,
ridiculous.
This is probably the best time we have just to have a conversation with each other.
Yeah, well, most people don't know you were talking about Gus Bradley. You know, his name is actually Paul Casey Bradley. I didn't know if you knew that or not.
Really?
Paul Casey, like the golfer. His name is actually Paul Casey Gus Bradley. I don't know where he got Gus out of Paul Casey Bradley, but that's where Gus came from. And of course, you know, you talk about what I really liked about him is he really was the orchestrator of that defense with the Seattle Seahawks when they were really good, the Legion of Boom. I mean, he was the guy that put that defense together. And Seattle had a hell of a defense the year they won the Super Bowl. And during that little run, I really liked that move for the Raiders. Mike Mayock, I mean, you know, I don't know. I shake my head at him. I'm amazed he got a head coaching job at one point in the NFL, and I'm super surprised about that. And yeah, to put himself down and rip on himself for the players that he picks is just amazing. And that does not say a lot for the Raiders. And I sure hope that maybe Mark Davis and that wonderful haircut decide to take a walk down his office and say, hit the road, brother.
This is a perfect transition because this is the leading question I wanted to give to you. You really teed me up here. If I told you right now, this is a trade, we're going to talk about Deshaun Watson. So this is my question to you. Would you be willing to give up Clelin Ferrell, Jonathan Abrams, Josh Jacobs, Henry Ruggs, and 2 first-round picks, along with Derek Carr for Deshaun Watson?
No. Too much.
You really think so?
Yeah. I do.
It's not. There's no way. Where are you losing value?
Well,
there?
Here's the thing. You're a passionate Raiders fan, so I can see why you would like that. And Deshaun Watson definitely last year, you know, he signed that big contract and everyone. A lot of times when that happens, you may have a letdown. Don't look at the Texans' record and blame any of that on Deshaun Watson. That is completely on coaching and management and their horrible decisions in personnel, getting rid of guys like DeAndre Hopkins, arguably the best receiver in the game. I still think it's Tyreek Hill, but I would never cry about having DeAndre Hopkins on my squad, and you're going to pay your quarterback a boatload of money and then get rid of his number one primary target is unbelievable. Getting rid of Jadeveon Clowney was an amazing blunder, and this team has just gone straight downhill. And now you got Watson wanting to get out of town and general management saying, good luck, you're not going nowhere.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that trade is right for the Raiders. I'm talking about value-wise. That package of guys I just told you, you think is significantly more valuable than Deshaun Watson.
I just think it's too much for one player, and I think you're all of a sudden you're having to retool 2 or 3 other positions as well. I know you don't love Jonathan Abrams. We talked about it a million times. I mean, sometimes I couldn't. I don't think he could cover himself with a gigantic blanket, but he is a very physical player, and we talked to his trainer, as a matter of fact, recently, the guy that trains Jonathan, and I think the upside is if he can get more cerebral of a football player, I think I think he could be better. And that's just my opinion.
Okay. Well, I'll pose this question to you. And I know the answer to the question. I know you are a little more even keel on this. Obviously, I am pretty amped up. But are Jonathan Abrams and Clelin Ferrell both going to be in the league in 5 years?
Really, really tough to say. You know, Spencer, both those positions, and especially defensive secondary, is such a premium in the National Football League. And when you've got a guy with the physicality of a Jonathan Abrams, a guy that does make some bonehead penalties and gets burnt like toast, left too long in a toaster, it's bothersome. But I still see some raw talent in this guy. And I think if he stays healthy, you know, you get a defensive back that stays healthy, that is willing to put his head in front of anybody, he's going to find a job. And, you know, and Farrell, I don't know. I thought he'd be a better football player, but in 5 years from now, unless he improves, which I don't see him improving, no, I think he'll be out of the league in 5 years, in my opinion. But I think Abrams will probably be around.
Yeah, if you
for that reason, a defensive back.
I will agree with you that he is a good tackler. It's not like he misses it, but he's just so out of position. It's just crazy.
It's a cerebral. I think coaching, if you can find a great defensive backs coach to work with this guy and maybe get somebody else, a seasoned veteran to join that secondary, that may really help. But I think that's something the Raiders need to look for. They've got a lot of young guys back there. You really need a seasoned veteran in your secondary. Every great secondary has had a Pro Bowler in it, and you got to get one of those in the secondary. I mean, Trevon Mullen, I like him. I think there's a big upside with him. But again, I mean, he might have been the best of a really bad bunch. You know, Jeff Heath, I mean, coming over from Dallas, this is the guy at the tail end of his career. Another guy that will lay the lumber on you, but he's not the quickest of feet. He is a cerebral football player, but he's going to get burnt like toast too. The Raiders need to shore up that secondary, or 8-8's the best they're going to do next year too, Spencer.
Well, you talked about no Pro Bowlers in the secondary. The Raiders have no Pro Bowlers, period. Not all pro. We're not talking about the best of the best. They do not have a single guy. You know how easy it is to get in the Pro Bowl every single year? And I can't make a case for it. I'm not even saying that anybody on the Raiders defense has been snubbed. They legitimately have zero Pro Bowl talent on their team. I could talk about the Raiders all night, but we are going to transition to the Houston Texans, that Deshaun Watson part of that. So here, the Texans GM Nick Caserio says that they have no interest in trading their star quarterback, Deshaun Watson. He is, I think this was a quote from him. He is a Houston Texan. I want him to be a Houston Texan. He said this to ESPN's Field Yates. I want to make sure I get credit for that. The reason I'm in this position today is because I know he's going to be a Houston Texan. That's a real interesting story, Brian, because yesterday Deshaun Watson had put in his trade request. So what is going on between at least just the communication, let alone the situation? And they've already done this like earlier in the season too, with JJ Watt and saying like there's no issues and stuff like that, and it comes out the next day. Of course there is. This is a PR nightmare. But how can the GM even come out and say that everything's fine? I'm not going to trade him when. First of all, he's not going to play for the team, so it has to be considered for him.
Yeah, Spencer, it's a good question, and it's really surprising. It's like, we all know you are being over the top politically correct with your statement there. You're saying what you think your Houston fans want to hear. So yeah, he'll be part of it. It was a moronic statement, and it should have been left unsaid, because the bottom line, we know there's dissension. We know Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston, as well as any other decent player there, which is like 3, all want to get the hell out of there, because this is a team that I don't see winning in the near future. But again, the same way I talked about James Harden wanting to leave the Houston Rockets, which he did, and now he's in New Jersey, I say about Deshaun Watson, you just signed one hell of a contract. You are a very, very wealthy man. If you are that good, which I think he has the potential to be that good, stay where you're at and make the team better. Peyton Manning didn't whine like his brother Eli. He didn't whine like John Elway. He went to the Colts and eventually won a Super Bowl with them. Stay with the Houston Texans. Go talk to David Culley and tell him, look, get with the GM. I know what you're going to say, Spencer, but I like Deshaun Watson. I like his ability, but I think when you get paid that much money, show a little loyalty. Don't sit there and make personnel decisions. They're making bad ones. I think your fans know that you are an all-pro, and they're taking away all-pro talent from your team. But I wasn't very happy that Deshaun Watson made it known he wanted to leave 1 year after signing one of the largest contracts a quarterback's ever signed in the National Football League. I think
that's a really interesting take. At no point have I ever heard a sportscaster so far in the saga say that any of the onus should be on Deshaun Watson. And I get what you're saying. I do. And to a certain degree, I agree. You're making that much money. I don't really care how unhappy you are with the situation. I mean, they're paying you to do that. I don't know if he would get paid if he didn't play. I doubt it. I don't know.
James Harden did was worse, for sure, to say, I'm not even going to negotiate a future contract. And right away, you're coaching. Everyone knows you're disengaged. But now, is Deshaun Watson disengaged? Is this going to disengage him? Not that he's going to not try as hard. You can't help yourself when you're a professional athlete. You get out there, you want to show your wares, and he'll still play at his best. But knowing that his head doesn't love the franchise that he's at, as a fan, that's bothersome. I mean, I'm not upset. I know we're transitioning to Matthew Stafford next. I'm not upset as a passionate Detroit Lions fan, a former Detroit Lions radio employee. I am not upset that Matthew Stafford wants out of Detroit. He's at the very tail end of his career. His contract is up. Why not? Deshaun Watson is in a whole different position than Matthew Stafford. And if I'm a Houston fan right now, I'm bummed because you're saying you want to leave us and make us even worse than we already are.
Yeah, well, I do want to talk about it because there are parallels between Stafford. We'll go right into that after this. But do you think Matthew Stafford regrets being so loyal to the Detroit Lions? I mean, this is a guy who potentially has a Hall of Fame career, multiple 5,000-yard seasons, something that just like is not going to happen anytime soon as far as I'm concerned. Would Matthew Stafford have been better off to be like Deshaun Watson right now and get out of Detroit earlier? I know that's not what you want to hear because you're a Detroit Lions fan, but still, I mean, I feel like the situations are fairly similar.
No, they are. And, and I commend Matthew Stafford for sucking it up. I mean, is there regrets? Anybody that lives in Detroit for more than 16 minutes is probably regretting being there. So, yeah, over a decade career playing in Detroit for the most inept sports franchise in any sport in the world, and I'll argue that with anyone, is like I said, the statistics I have on that. Matthew Stafford, let's look at it this way. 11 years in Detroit, right? 3 playoff games, 0 playoff victories. And you want to know what's sickening, Spencer? He is the best quarterback for the Detroit Lions in my lifetime. And I've been around here a while. And to say that the best quarterback in my lifetime has never won a playoff game for a franchise that's been around since 1917, it's pretty repulsive. But no, do I think Matthew Stafford should? No, I like what he did. I think the word professional, it is, to me, it's a very serious word in any area of life that you're in. You are a professional. He is a professional that was paid to be a professional, paid to go to Detroit, the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, as was Deshaun Watson. The bottom line is stay where you are at. And until your contract, especially now if you're at the end of your last year of your contract, yeah, you can make a little bit of noise, but he just signed this huge multi-year deal. And you're right, most sportscasters don't talk about it. I believe we should all do it, but come on, man. The whole reason you play the game, you love it, but you're making huge money. And again, if you're that good, make the team that you're playing for win. We've seen the best of the best do it. Tom Brady, he leaves New England, and I argued about this with Caleb on the show last Sunday, and I'm very pro. And now I hope Caleb has a different feeling after they went into Green Bay and beat the Packers. But the bottom line is make your team better. Tom Brady goes to Tampa Bay and put them in the Super Bowl his first year. If you're great, make your team great.
Well, to that, I mean, the counterpoint to that for me is head coaching. He had, in my opinion, the worst head coach that I've seen in my lifetime. I know that sounds like an exaggeration of talking about Bill O'Brien, of course. After watching that Chiefs game, he's the worst coach I've ever seen in my life. You can't do that if you're a head coach. And the fact that they promoted...
Well, he had the stink of Penn State on him. Whenever you got that stink on you,
you also get promoted after that season. When you see if you're Deshaun Watson and you see the worst head coach that you've ever played for sure. I mean, he played over in Clemson. He had a great head coach over there. So when you see the worst head coach that you've ever played for get promoted after destroying your playoff hopes, they should have beaten the Chiefs. There's no way. I mean, at least it should have been a little closer than it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really know where Deshaun Watson should lie. I guess there should be a higher standard for the way your franchise is run, and the fact that they're tanking it so hard.
Well, I just know if you're David Culley right now, man, you're begging Deshaun Watson to stay because, that's part of the reason you took the job is knowing you've got a quarterback like Deshaun Watson.
Yes, because if you are a new head coach, this guy, I don't know who this guy is. I'll be honest with you. If I knew who this guy was.
I just know how to spell his last name. That's about as much as I know about David Culley.
Yeah, I'd probably be in the booth like calling Sunday night games if I knew who David Culley was. But if you're Deshaun Watson, you just put in your trade request. Apparently it was a couple of weeks ago. We're just finding out about it today. So he didn't really put it in today. It was a while ago. But when you see a guy get hired like that, does that give you any more confidence to be with the team?
No, it doesn't. It's the same thing. Dan Campbell, I know who he is because he played for the Lions one time. It's like, why would you hire somebody that played for this team, for God's sake? They have a losing culture based into their head. And I'm being a little hard on him. I actually like Dan Campbell better than the incumbent, way better than I like Matt Patricia. But we will see. I still think, like I said, I think as long as the Ford family owns the Detroit Lions, they will never win. They are cursed. And I told you where the curse started. Do you know that? Do you know the day that William Clay Ford, did I tell you say that?
Yeah, JFK, right?
The day that he signed the contract to become the owner of the Detroit Lions, they asked him to put it off a day because John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated the same day that William Clay Ford signed the contract to buy the Detroit Lions. I can't think of any other reason why we're so cursed. But the point is, I've always said until the Ford family sells this team, they're not going to win. And so, you look at Matthew Stafford, it is a shame, Spencer, that he has gone through this career. This is a guy that is a heady quarterback, cerebral, plays the game, can make any throw, has made some terrible decisions over his career, but everyone has. But overall, the overall body of work, like you said, look at the numbers that he has put up. They are legitimately almost Hall of Fame numbers, and yet you cannot put Matthew Stafford into the Hall of Fame.
No, not right now. But so speaking of Matthew Stafford, well, one last question on Deshaun Watson.
Okay.
Can they fix it? Can they fix the situation with him?
Well, anything's fixable. And you know why it's fixable? Because the National Football League is a multi-billion-dollar business and money can fix just about anything. And so, who knows the way they'll figure out a way to shut Deshaun Watson up and get him to play for Houston. But I guarantee you, somehow, if the GM is right, and if David Culley has his way, next year you'll see Deshaun Watson doing commercials in Houston about how happy he is to be a Texan. And it's all, and if you see that commercial, it's all about somehow they've added something to that enormous contract.
Yeah. All right. So we're talking about Matthew Stafford. Obviously, he's on the trade block. The team that came out today is the first team that I've seen. Obviously, the Rams. Do they become top 3 Super Bowl favorites the second they trade for him?
You know what, Spencer? It's a really good question. And I think, yes, believe it or not, I'm surprised I'm saying that, but I think Matthew Stafford is that much better than what they have there now. I mean, I am sorry. I understand that Jared Goff took you to a Super Bowl. He did. He laid a gigantic ostrich egg in that Super Bowl, but he still got them there in his 3rd year in the league. Pretty impressive. But I just don't think Jared Goff is the guy to lead this team with a defense that has the potential to be as good as any in the league because they've got the best player in the NFL on that defensive front. And because of that player, this team has a chance to win. And I think Matthew Stafford, even though I can't say that since he left Georgia, he doesn't bring a winning culture, but he is an element and maybe a missing piece to that puzzle. Some great weapons in Robert Woods and some of the other guys they have on that team. And now you add him to the mix. Yeah, I think the Rams immediately become a team that people watch out for next season.
Yeah, well, let's talk about this trade for a second, because obviously they're going to have to give up something pretty valuable for him. You're not going to give up a guy like Matthew Stafford for like a 3rd-round pick, even just 1 first-round pick. He's worth more than that. So I'll tell you, because there's been no details, so I'm completely speculating here. Let's say the trade is Jalen Ramsey, 2 first-round picks, or let's say Jalen Ramsey, 1 first-round pick, and Robert Woods. Should the Rams take that trade? That's some talent there.
I'll tell you what, I would love the Lions to get that trade. I really would. Even though Jalen Ramsey is starting to get to the back end of his career, he's got 2 good years left in him. And I don't know that there's a better blanket cover cornerback in the National Football League than Jalen Ramsey. He is ridiculous. And as I just mentioned, Robert Woods, you want to talk about a weapon. Whoever is going to be the incumbent to Matthew Stafford in Detroit would love to have Robert Woods on one side and Galladay on the other. You're talking about all of a sudden you've got one of the best wide receiver tandems in the National Football League when you do that.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this too. If that trade's going to happen, Jared Goff is going back to the Lions. Whether or not he starts for them, I don't know. But that trade doesn't happen without Jared Goff leaving.
No, Jared Goff is definitely on the trading block, and the Rams have basically said he is not the answer to our future, where a couple of years ago they thought that he was. And Sean McVay said it, this is our guy. And, but you change your mind. And I think some of the decision-making we saw Jared Goff make through the regular season and into the playoffs is like, whoa, man, what are you doing? And sometimes he shows he has the natural ability. He has the arm to throw pretty much any pass. And occasionally, like, he'll have this game where you're like, wow, this guy, and you understand why he was the number 1 pick. And then all of a sudden there's another. It's like, what is he thinking? And that happens too often with a guy like Jared Goff. And that's why I think Sean McVay and the Rams, the Rams in general are like, okay, this is not the guy, but yet we've got a defense to win a championship. We need to put a signal caller in place that can do it. And I would love, I don't want to say I'd love to see Matthew Stafford go there. I'm very sad about him departing, but I just don't see championship potential in Detroit in the near future, where the Rams potentially have a Super Bowl team if he goes on it.
Could you live with the Jared Goff-led Detroit Lions next year?
You know what? There's not much in Detroit I can't live with, Spencer. I mean, you look around Detroit overall. This is not going to be a Detroit bashing show, but I mean, every single franchise in Detroit, from the Red Wings to the Pistons to the Tigers to the Lions, are garbage. So in Detroit, what am I used to? Sure, why not? Maybe when Jared Goff gets done playing quarterback, he can go play center field to the Tigers too, because they're god awful as well.
All right, so we'll finish up the discussion. Let's say he does go to the Rams for that package. I'm assuming that the win total would be set at 9.5. Would you go over under on the Rams winning 10 game or 9.5 games next season?
I will go over for sure. I'll take the over. I think the Rams with Matthew Stafford are an 11 to 12 win football team. I truly believe that. And it is because of the strength of that defensive front. They are, Spencer, that defensive front is scary. And all we talk about when you talk about the Rams defense is one man. It is not one man. Yes, he is the best player in the National Football League, but it's not one man. That whole defensive front is really, really scary and tough. And there's not a quarterback in the National Football League that gets ready to play the Rams that is like, oh my God, I got to play against Aaron Donald. But he's not just thinking about Aaron Donald. He's thinking about that front four and knowing they are pinning their ears back and coming after him. And, I believe the Rams didn't get through the season in one game. They never went sackless this entire season. And that's kind of rare.
Oh, it's special. So we're talking about 10-win territory. That now you're starting to talk about the discussion for an NFC championship, meaning, or I guess what I'm saying is winning the NFC, the first seed. Is that possible? It's like, where are you gauging him? Like 10 to 12 wins, or can they legitimately have the best record in the NFC?
Well, they could have the best record in the NFL. It all depends. I mean, they have, the thing is, Spencer, they've got to make some moves. You can't say right now, I don't think the Rams are going to stop at Matthew Stafford. If you're going all in on a quarterback that's going to be 33 years old next year, knowing you've only got probably 2 or 3 years, Stafford's so beaten up for playing for the Lions. This isn't a guy that at 36, 37, like Aaron Rodgers, that's going to have the best year of his career. This is a guy at 36 or 37 is probably going to be out of the National Football League. So you're looking at a 2 or 3 year window with Matthew Stafford, probably at best. So they're saying we're all in to win now. So I believe other changes will be made on this team to put them over the top. I say just now with Matthew Stafford, you lose Robert Woods and Ramsey. That changes my opinion a little bit. But I think right now with Matthew Stafford on the team, that's a 10-win football team, maybe a 12-win team. You want to get them to 14 wins, 15 wins to say a team that's going to be the number one seed in the NFC or the NFL, they're going to have to make some more moves. And if you lose Jalen Ramsey, well, now you got a big hole to fill too on the defensive side of the ball. But I think Matthew Stafford is that much of a difference maker if he could just get on a team that's going to protect him and has a winning culture and wants to win. And I believe that's the Rams. I think Sean McVay is a great coach. And I think this is a guy that is a young mind. I mean, look what he's done. The movement of Sean McVay has prompted so many other NFL teams to go out and try to find a young coach to relate more to your players, because he really does relate very well to his players. And that's why I think this is a winning team. I think he's a great coach, and I think this Rams team will be good for years to come.
Well, it would be a great one. I think that's the most exciting team that I can see him going to. There's a couple other ones, like some of them just won't happen. Like the Bears desperately need a quarterback. The Detroit Lions are not trading Matthew Stafford to the Bears, obviously. So
he wouldn't want to go to the Bears. The Bears aren't winning anything with him, and he's got to know that they've got a decent defense too. But they were winning the games at the beginning of the season that got them into the playoffs with smoke and mirrors, man. I mean, But again, a lot of that did fall on the quarterback. Mitchell Trubisky is terrible, and I don't like putting down God almighty.
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles. I don't like putting him down because you talk about a Super Bowl MVP, but Nick Foles is like a 1 or 2 year wonder. I mean, he's done. So, but when Matthew Stafford improves the Bears team, he could, but I think that division is going to be real tough because I think Aaron Rodgers is probably have another year or two left in him, and it's going to be tough to win the NFC North. So no, Matthew Stafford is not going to go to the Lions aren't giving him to a rival. That's for damn sure. I still see the one other team that no one talks a great deal about that would be a decent fit for Matthew Stafford is the Washington football team. And I think they've had some interest in him. And I think that is a really good fit for him, because this is a team that, even though I hate their owner, they spend money, and the owner wants insatiably to win. He can't get out of his own way. Daniel Snyder's his own worst enemy. But the bottom line is, this is a team that, with Matthew Stafford going over there, we saw what they did with, a one-legged Alex Smith. Imagine a Matthew Stafford going to Washington. They've got some weapons, and I think they would invest in more, but I still think he's going to end up, the way it sounds like he's going to end up a Los Angeles Ram.
Yeah, it's coming pretty fast.
Yeah.
But I do agree with you. Washington football team would be an awesome fit. I don't know if he necessarily would want to go there. That's asking him.
He talked about it. I think he mentioned it before.
He would have to put a lot more legwork into the Washington situation than the LA Rams. We talked about, they're pretty much a 10-win team if he goes to the Rams automatically without any additional moves. I want to say Redskins every single time, but
I was just going to say, nobody wants to go to a football team without a name.
Yeah,
they don't have a name,
and they're thinking about keeping the Washington football moniker. They might not even give themselves a name.
That's horrible.
That's a discussion for another time. So we're going to transition over to a little college basketball. We were at the UNLV game last night. We might have just different opinions on this. That's obviously perfectly fine. I'll tell you mine. I mean, so if anyone doesn't know, they lost to Utah State. Fairly close game, but not really. Like, UNLV never threatened to get back into this game ever at any point. It ended up being a 9-point game. It kind of just fluctuated to that 9-point range the entire time. The storyline for me is Bryce Hamilton in this one. This guy went 1 for 12. I have here on the screen.
He didn't have a point till midway. After the midway point of the second half, he was shut out with points.
Do you think Utah State really put that much pressure on him? Were they double teaming him the entire time? I didn't see any of that. Why? Like, where was he and what was going on?
Spencer, I don't know. We talked about it during the game. You heard me mention, I was talking to some of our other friends in the media yesterday at the game, and I'm saying, I said, does anyone dispute that Bryce Hamilton is the most talented player on the Running Rebels? And everyone said, no, he is definitely the most talented. How do you design an offense if you're TJ, Otzelberger, and not have him be the centerpiece of that design? It looked like they weren't running plays for Bryce Hamilton. And I don't know why. Maybe he's in the doghouse. But are you kidding me? This is a guy that is capable of scoring 30 points a night. He has that capability. He is a scorer. He's a thrasher. Sometimes his motor doesn't run properly, and that's probably my biggest complaint about Bryce Hamilton is sometimes I don't think he's giving full 100% effort. But other than that, it is amazing that it looked like they had no offensive plays designed for Bryce Hamilton. But then you, Spencer, were saying they didn't have any offensive plays designed for anybody.
No, I don't think they have any offensive identity. I didn't like it last year. I thought they passed the ball around for no reason, but at least there was a little ball movement. So many early shot clock threes nearly drove me insane. When you look at it, I mean, obviously they didn't even score that many points. 74 points in this game, I don't think is something to be proud of. A lot of late shot, like David Jenkins, who has played significantly better. And that's understandable, too. Like, he was just brought to UNLV. So for him to go out to a slow start, I never was really too hard on that. I still think he's a much better player than Amari Hardy, who is buried on the bench in Oregon, where I knew he would be. Why he ever went to Oregon, I have no idea.
They got a great locker room.
Yeah, maybe he just wanted to enjoy his last semester of college. He's actually playing a ton of minutes, scoring 5 points. Anyways, there's plenty of guys. I mean, this team is better than the Montana State game. We knew that going into it. Is that something to hang your hat on? I don't know.
Well, Spencer, one thing that we do have to say about yesterday's game, UNLV, I'm not going to say that they played good. They didn't play good in the game. They beat Utah State before, and Utah State is one of the better teams. They're 13-5 now. They're one of the better teams in the Mountain West Conference. And in Nemus Keita, you're talking about a guy as a freshman. They talked about an NBA prospect. He, as I mentioned, he seemed to be regressing. He's averaging under 13 points a game. I don't understand how, when as a freshman he was so dominating. And I don't know, maybe it was Sam Merrill and all the attention that was paid to him on Utah State that they let Nemus, that's why he was open and he dominated so much. But Utah State has definitely regressed. They've lost, in losing Diego Brito, in losing Abel Porter, and in losing Sam Merrill. That is really the cornerstone of their team. I like guys like Justin Bean. I really do. And this kid yesterday, Marco Anthony, I mean, my God, he could not miss from 3-point land ever. That was the big story about yesterday is Utah State could not miss from behind the arc. And that really was the difference in the game. David Jenkins went off, the best I've I've seen him play. He was slashing, he was cutting, he was making good entry passes. And I saw what TJ Otzelberger said. I finally saw yesterday, and I've seen in the last few games, that this guy can definitely play the point. And without question, like you said, he is better than Amari Hardy. And so I stand corrected, because the first game against Montana State, you and I are looking at saying, who the hell is this guy? For God's sakes, he might not start at Gorman, but he has definitely proved his worth. More discipline and more coaching, because I know you don't like Caleb Grill because he's not a two-way player, but he does have range as an offensive player, and he's more of a streak shooter. He's a kid that can get hot in a game, and if he gets hot, he'll score at points in bunches, but he takes too many shots. And it seems like when he gets the ball, he is always shoot first in his eyes. You can see it. You've got to distribute and always go for a more high percentage shot. That is basketball. I don't care if the game has revolutionized into a perimeter game. Still, if you can find somebody down low, especially when there's a lot of time left on the shot clock, look for it. He's taking these NBA three-pointers with 17 seconds to go on the shot clock. That is terrible basketball. And why he's not getting pulled off the floor when he does that is surprising to me.
There is zero accountability on the UNLV running Rebels. Plain and simple to me. Nick Blake, he does not understand player personnel. Now, I know I'm projecting myself. I've never been an NCAA coach. I don't know. But when I see Nick Blake, he's usually much more productive, more selective on his shots than Caleb Grill. He's taller, so naturally he's just a little better defensively. I don't understand. Otzelberger won't be the coach in 2 years. I'll say it right now on January 29, 2021. He's just not. He's not that good. I don't think he's a bad person. I don't wish anything bad upon him. This is just my professional sports opinion. If I were to not say that because I felt bad for the dude, then I shouldn't be sitting in this seat right now. Do you see TJ staying here long-term when they're just seem to be getting worse every season?
No. And I say that emphatically no, because again, when I see Bryce Hamilton, if you would have told me, Spencer, I would have bet you on this big money. If you would have said there's going to be a game this season that Bryce Hamilton's going to be perfectly healthy and he's only going to score 2 points. How much do you want to bet me that there'll be a game that he'll only score 2 points as a starter, completely healthy, and he'll play 32 minutes in that game and score 2 points? I would have bet my entire bank account you were wrong. That would be impossible. It's not. It just happened last night. He scored 2 points in 32 minutes. It is amazing to me. He did have 7 rebounds, not 1 assist, and 2 points. That is repulsive for the best player on your team. It's unacceptable, and I don't blame Bryce Hamilton for that. I blame the coaching staff.
And again, they did not double team him. He was not hounded all night. A lot of single.
He made he took some lousy shots,
sure,
but it doesn't matter. You have got to give him something. You have got to. He is a slasher, and he can get to the rim. Why are you not designing plays for this kid to get to the rim? We've seen him do it. We have seen this kid go right to the basket, end to end. He has that ability. I didn't see him do it once last night.
No, and 2 nights ago. And to end this little UNLV talk, besides the fact that they played teams like St. Catherine to pad their season out,
which the cough medicine, Benedictine Mesa,
which is disrespectful to me as an alumni. It's weird to say I'm an alumni now because I graduated. It was so funny when we were at the game. I was like, I'm not here as a student anymore. It's so strange to be done. But I just... going forward, I don't know what I want out of him. And what I was trying to get to, a point I'm trying to get to here is look at Christian Wood and all these pool of guys who are UNLV NBA talents. Has UNLV ever had a all-pro type of guy? No, that's not really the point for UNLV. We've always had high-profile first-round picks on our team. We do not have one anymore. That's a failure on recruiting and everything. I think it starts with the coaching, the athletic director. We have to get more talented people at UNLV. It should not be that hard. We are one of the greatest historical college basketball teams, one of the most storied franchises in the sport. How can we not make it happen? David Jenkins, like we talked about, is okay. He ain't going to he's not getting drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NBA. That's just plain and simple.
No, he's not. And there's not a player on this team other than Bryce Hamilton that's going to get a cup of tea in the NBA. Bryce Hamilton will get a look. I think the pro scouts can see this guy is talented. You got to get him with the right coach. You got to figure out a way to make Bryce Hamilton's motor run all the time. If his motor runs all the time, he has NBA ability. But you've got to be on go literally from the time from whistle to gun, and he's not. But you're 100% right. This team has got to find a way to recruit better talent. You still have the Thomas and Mack, and I will tell you what, it is still one of the nicer facilities in the country that Tark got done here, and you still have. it's UNLV. I don't care if the culture is 30 years ago. This is still a culture that was created. And like I said, poor Jerry Tarkanian, I'm glad he was losing it the last couple of years because, he didn't have to see how far it dwindled, because at least Dave Rice might not have been the best X's and O's guy. And we know that he wasn't. But Dave Rice could recruit. And now when we look back on it, even though they didn't win a ton with Dave Rice, they gave us exciting moments against Arizona, North Carolina, teams where they won these games. And on top of that, you had NBA talent on this team. At one point in time, he had Patrick McCaw, Christian Wood, Zimmer, all on the same team. And it was fun to watch. They didn't win enough because, again, Dave Rice wasn't a great floor coach, but a great recruiter. And now we don't have that. Now, not only did we not recruit, we don't coach either. So I don't want to rip terribly on them. I want to give TJ his fair dues, but you've got when your best player on your team, a preseason first team Mountain West Conference pick preseason, is scoring 2 points in a game against a team that's about as formidable a foe as they'll play this year. That's terrible, man. And like I said, part of it goes on Bryce Hamilton. He did miss some open looks, but he should have taken way more shots than he did. He was not getting the ball, and I just don't understand that, Spencer.
Looking up to Mountain West opponents is a long shot right now. When UNLV was in its heyday, Mountain West opponents did not matter at all. So we are a far cry away. I hope in my lifetime I see UNLV play good. I would love to. I do support them. We go to the games. We're one of the few people who actually go and get our credentials and go to the games. I enjoy it to a certain extent, but gosh, is it sad?
It's frustrating. It gets very frustrating.
Absolutely. So we'll go to another Vegas team, and that's the Golden Knights. This is, again, not great news. The season has just straight up been halted due to COVID-19 complications. Have you heard about this? I don't even know what the situation is.
No, well, I just know that the coaching staff had it. They had the whole Silver Knights coaching staff there a couple of games ago, and they won that game in a dramatic comeback win against St. Louis, winning in the shootout. But now Alex Pietrangelo, their newest player, a guy that everyone's been excited about, he tests positive. The coaching staff, and they canceled last night's game, and it sucked for me because I was in Costa Rica when this season started. I hadn't seen a game live yet this year. I didn't go to Tuesday's game simply because I didn't really need to. I know that there's going to be Thursday's game, and our show's Sunday, your show's Friday. So, I figured I'll watch that one on TV. Plus, the way they've got the media situated now at T-Mobile Arena, it's horrible that because of the way they're trying to spread them out. That press box just is not conducive for social distancing. So they've moved the media into the Hyde Lounge and what have you. But I still was excited to go to my first game. And then the rug got pulled out early in the day when Pietrangelo tested positive for COVID-19. Spencer, I don't know. You've already got a very abbreviated 56-game season. Now you're looking to abbreviate it down to probably 10 games less. I don't think you can have a hockey season with less than 50 games. I just don't think it's fair. I mean, for a 40-game hockey season, it's less than half the season. And right now, I think if they're going to continue it, they're probably looking at about a 40 to 45-game season.
Yeah. If they just tested positive, at least 2 weeks has to go by. So I don't know if they, Pietrangelo just had it and no one else got it. Extremely unlikely. I don't know what their testing parameters are like, but will they try to make up these games at some point? They say postponed. NBA says postponed too, but have you heard any plans for them to actually play this game later?
I just don't know how you do it. I mean, they're already pushing the outer edge of the envelope to try to finish on time. The goal of what they're doing in the abbreviated seasons and the pushing and all this, it's simply to get the leagues back on track when this thing ends, to have football season at normal football season, which they did this year. They got it through. But you don't want baseball season running into November, for God's sakes. The East Coast teams are playing in the snow. So, you want to get the seasons back to the normal parameters. And that's why extending the hockey league, now you're already into June for the Stanley Cup Finals. You go into July and August. When are we going to see a normal hockey season again? It can't keep starting in January. So you got to get it back to normal. And the only way to do that is to finish out the season. But like I said, less than 50 games, man. You almost got to put an asterisk there. It's just not fair.
Well, the Golden Knights, as far as I know, are the only team that's had this bad of an issue with it. So are they just not eligible to make the playoffs? Is that what they're going to end up doing?
I don't know. I think put it this way, Spencer, I think maybe something like this, since you are making all these, changes and you're changing the parameters of things, maybe the Golden Knights, they look at the record. And if the Golden Knights continue to win like they're winning, guys, you got to play as many games. So they might have to, and that's the hard part. What if they have to make up all these games and they go into the playoffs and it's like, man, they used it all up, unless you bring up a bunch of Silver Knights to play you already position yourself in the playoffs and say, hey, for these extra games, let's get some younger players in here to save ourselves for the playoffs. I just don't know how you do it. It's going to be interesting, and not interesting in a good way. None of this is in a good way. It's just going to be interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure. And hopefully the NHL doesn't have any more issues like this. I actually do want to talk about the Golden Knights just for a quick second.
Sure.
I mean, before all this issues, they were looking pretty good. I mean, the fact that the coaching staff was able to, stage a little comeback against the Blues and AHL staff, of course, I mean, they're going to give up 5 goals. It's not going to be good. But I like Pietrangelo. I don't think the pressure's on him to score any goals. And I think William Karlsson's a lot healthier. From what you have seen from the Golden Knights, what do you think of the team so far this season?
Well, Spencer, I think they're meeting the expectations I personally had for them. I thought with the pickup of Pietrangelo, I think with Renner now and having 2 very quality goaltenders, Marc-Andre Fleury, he definitely had a fire lit under his ass this year. I mean, he wanted to play and he got himself in a platooning situation with Robin Lehner. No one thought that. I think we all thought Robin Lehner is going to be between the pipes and maybe Fleury will play 1 out of every 5 or 6 games. No, it's been every other game. So that's been a real pleasant surprise. And they are what we thought they were. The one thing that was disappointing, and yet they were still winning, was their performance on the power play, and they corrected that in the last game against St. Louis, which is what helped bring them back in the game. You shore up that power play with the talent they have in this team, and yeah, I think the sky's the limit. I think this might be the Golden Knights' best season and best chance to win a Stanley Cup, and it really sucks that it has to be during this, and it tarnishes it. It's like I said, if I was a Dodgers fan right now, I'm sorry, I feel a little bit tarnished in the World Series because they're not getting, I don't give them the respect because, like I said, every season Clayton Kershaw tanked in the postseason. Not that he tanked, he just was worn out. After 60 games, he wasn't worn out. You didn't see the same. I don't think it's fair to say, well, let's see what he's like after, especially as another year older. What would he have been like after 162 games as opposed to 60 games? So it's tarnished because it's not the real deal. And that's the way I'm kind of feeling with the Golden Knights. If they did win the Stanley Cup this year in a 56, now maybe 50 game season, it takes a little bit of the shinola off of it. But I still think this is, without question, one of the best teams in the National Hockey League. They are sure fun to watch, Spencer. That is a really, and especially Pietrangelo has added so much to this team. And Shea Theodore, as we saw in the last game, this guy, I mean, he just keeps getting better.
No, he does. And I will give credit where credit's due right here on the Delivering Sports Show. This is going to shock Brian. Pacioretty has had definitely his best season in Golden Knight. He's not playing bad this season. I like to see it.
More quality shots, Spencer, which is what you said he needed to do. He's not really taking less shots, but it seems like he's making that extra move or extra pass to do something a little extra to get the puck in the net. And that's where his success is coming from. And I think where you might have been a little bit right on Max Pacioretty is, I always say, playing hockey since I was about, a young man, shoot. Every chance you get the puck. If there's any kind of clearance, put the puck on the net because, deflections, you've got, screens and everything else going on. Hockey. The puck's got to go towards that. We've seen many fluky goals. Hockey is loaded with fluky goals. And Max Pacioretty was one of those guys. But what he's done this year, it seems like he's taking that one extra step in or making that one extra move. And it's resulting in putting the biscuit in the basket. And I think that's what you wanted to see out of him. But I told you, Max Pacioretty has really good hands. And he can put the puck in the net. He is a talented hockey player. But I would agree, I'm happy that he's taking more quality shots, and I'm happy that you actually have warmed up to him.
Of course. And when I'm wrong, I will admit I'm wrong. I promise you that. But the one thing I wanted to say about Pietrangelo, because I said going to the season, without him, there's no way the Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup. They don't have the juice. So does Pietrangelo give them that extra feel? To me, so far, it absolutely does. Because the idea was last year, you have Shea Theodore, who's a wild card, and he kind of was the star of the team the entire year. But now they have that wild card, and then they have Pietrangelo, that basically the best, in my opinion, offensive or defensive or offensive-minded defenseman pairing in the league. I don't know how you, and the Golden Knights, you can account for both of those guys in the back, along with who they already have going up forward. Now, Jonathan Marchessault still stinks, in my opinion, but you can't have a perfect team every single year. Not every single player in your team is going to be the greatest guy ever. So that was a little Golden Knights talk. I'm excited for them to get back on the ice. I'm sure you are too, because you want to go to a game, everything like that. So we'll have to monitor and see how it goes there. We have time for one more topic. Brian, you could have left a long time ago. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
No, I'm loving this. You know me, Spencer. You know, I mean, all you got to do is start talking sports to me.
You could have just walked out on me.
I was already warmed up from talking mortgages and real estate. So let's talk some sports, man. I like it.
So this Ben Roethlisberger situation, I find a little interesting here. So the owner, Art Rooney, confirms that Big Ben wants to be the QB next year for the team. But as of right now, they got a few hoops to jump through. And what I mean by that is he's slated to make $41.2 million next year. So I suppose it is a little understandable from the Steelers side that they are not going to bring him back on this deal. Do you see this move by him coming out saying this publicly that they're trying to force him into retirement?
Yeah, you know, I understand it. And I think they absolutely are trying to do that. I mean, this is, you know, $41 million for a 38-year quarterback that really tailed off at the end of the season. You saw the wear on him. He's not the 38-year-old quarterback that Tom Brady or Drew Brees was. That's for damn sure. You know, Ben's had some injury problems. You know, so there's been times his head hasn't been in the game. But I'll tell you what, that he had moments at the end of the season, but he started to really stink. And if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, you know, it's time to part ways with Ben Roethlisberger. He can take him and that big forehead and chin and walk on down the road and go somewhere else. I think Ben will play another season, but to me, Ben ought to go find a really good team to be a backup on, because he'd be a great backup quarterback on a good team to win a Super Bowl. Like it'd be kind of funny to see Ben Roethlisberger go to Tampa Bay and back up Tom Brady. That would be kind of cool, actually. Something like that would work out for Ben on a team that's got a chance to, or even, you know what, go to Kansas City and back up Patrick Mahomes. You know, the guy doesn't go down very often. You don't have to worry. You can hold a clipboard and possibly win a Super Bowl. Ben's got a couple. Why not go for a third? But Ben is just definitely, the talent has diminished tremendously, and you can see it this year, Spencer.
I'll say this year he stinks. I was going to ask you, so you think it's a realistic possibility? You think he would accept a backup role somewhere in the NFL?
I don't know, but yes, I think he would in the right situation on a team that he felt had an opportunity to win, where he might have an opportunity to play. And so that, you know, all those teams, you know, we all know you're one snap away in the NFL. They don't say it's the not for long league for nothing. I mean, you're one snap away from being gone, and we have seen backup quarterbacks have success and get opportunities everywhere. So why not be a backup? I mean, for God's sakes, for the most part, Ryan Fitzpatrick's made a career out of being a backup quarterback. And I don't think there's ever been a season, Ryan Fitzpatrick in his career, and you can check on the statistics on this, but I don't think there's ever been a season in his career where he hasn't started at least 3 games in a season for any team he's played for. And that's pretty cool when he goes in as a backup to be not an heir apparent, if anything, to teach someone. And he always ends up finding his way into the starting lineup at some point during the season. And he doesn't just find his way to the starting lineup. He plays well when he gets in the start. He is one of my favorite players of all time. But again, that's a guy that has accepted backup roles and really benefited as a backup quarterback. Maybe the best relief pitcher at quarterback of all time. I can't think of many better that have come in and won games. Now, the problem is he hasn't won big games like to take teams to playoffs, but he comes in and wins 3 or 4 in a row. And I don't know that anyone has more fun than playing. I know it's not a discussion about the beard, but I'm just saying, why not take a role like that? If you're Ben Roethlisberger, you can stay healthy. You don't have to worry, and you're still in the league. I know Ben Roethlisberger likes young girls to look at him and be happy. I do too, so I can relate to that. But the bottom line is Ben Roethlisberger is done. But he's not done enough. He could be a Matt Hasselbeck, like at the end of his career, to go to the Colts and get a chance to play. Do something like that. Look at a team where maybe somebody you could end up finding your way onto a field for a team. I'll tell you what, the Detroit Lions wouldn't be a bad option for Ben Roethlisberger. I don't want him there at all, but I'm saying for him and the team to lose Matthew Stafford, why not put him there for 1 year?
Sure. Gosh, he was just so bad this year. When he fell, you thought he was going to break his bones. I'll ask you real quick this question. So looks like he's on his way out. It's not guaranteed at this point. He still could come back on a very cheap deal, obviously, but they signed Dwayne Haskins. Yes or no, he starts, let's say, over under 4.5 games, Dwayne Haskins for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm taking the under.
You know, even though if Big Ben leaves, he's going to be like the guy.
He will be the guy for a second. They will get someone else. Dwayne Haskins is not an NFL season-long starting quarterback, in my opinion. He's a guy that can fill in. I'm not going to say he's not talented. I think he can play the game, but I think, Spencer, that if you're banking on him to be your 16-game starter and stuff, you're going to end up gravely disappointed.
Oh, I agree.
I mean, for God's sakes, Alex Smith on one leg beat him out.
Yeah, and he also went out partying after losses. So, Well, Brian, you can't thank you enough for coming on the show. That was really, really nice of you. I thought we had a great electric show there. But the more important announcement here at the end is on Sundays, we are at Kicker's Bar, but the sports show can't give out the call letters to that necessarily.
Say the name though. It's called Out of Line.
It's called Out of Line. If you follow me on Twitter at Spencer the Wiz, you will definitely know like what's going on with us in there.
But come on down because we give away. We got donuts that we're giving away for free orange juice, and they got a Bloody Mary and mimosa specials too. Come on down and see me, Spencer, and Caleb Herring, man. We'll have a good time.
It's so fun. It really is. It's a great bar, lots of TVs and good beer specials. And then we have mimosa specials in the morning, like when we're doing our show specifically.
I haven't mentioned this. I'm going to do it real quick because I know it's the end of your show. Super Bowl Sunday next week. I'm thinking we might have something special going on at Kickers, and we might all hang around after the show. And 17 TVs. They have game sound on. You want to talk about an intimate environment to watch Super Bowl? Kickers Sports Bar on North Las Vegas Boulevard. Check it out.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So that is Delivering Sports Show. Many more Fridays, many more Delivering Sports Show. I'm your late night talk show, 7 p.m. on KSHP 1400. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next time.